Alright, go ahead and take your nail and have your nail, hold it with the nail tip facing upward. That's how you're going to hold it when you're removing and making that nice crisp line. When you're polishing, you're going to hold it with the nail tip going downward. Okay? Go ahead and take your nail polish, your dark nail polish, swirl the stem or stick to get all the polish off so it doesn't drip, and wipe both sides of the belly. Make your pinkies kiss. Okay? Stick your pinkies out, make them kiss so that way you have good stability. And then you're going to polish the tip of your square nail tip. We're going to go in order as we filed. And you're going to polish the tip straight across. One thing that you want to make sure that when you're polishing the nails, flip the finger up like so. Do you see on mine it looks white? There's a white stripe on the very tip. So you got to polish the tip. When she points her finger or she's taking that wedding picture, you don't want to see the white of the tip of the nail. So you always want to polish that tip. Okay? Remember, when you go from pinky all the way to the other pinky, by the time you're done with one pinky, the first pinky was already dry. We're going to pretend that that's already done. You're going to take your finger and you're going to turn it pointing upwards. So my client right now has her hand, her elbow on the table, and she has her hand, the back of her hand towards me, and I'm working with her hand facing me. So the finger should be upward. Okay? Go ahead and dip your brush into the remover, wipe both of the bellies, make your pinkies kiss. Good stability. Put your brush in the middle of your nail and then swipe side to side, pushing upwards as you swipe. Now, as you're swiping, if your nail tip is wide, you have to rotate your nail side to side. If it's a small nail tip, then you just have to swipe your brush and you're good. When you're creating your crisp line, you're going to get rid of some of the polish, so you're going to wipe your brush on your napkin. The indicator that your brush is clean is if your napkin is clear. If there's something on your napkin, then your brush is dirty. Okay? Now, if I were to take the finger like this, which you can, and so my client is holding her hand with the fingers facing downward, okay, like so. Fingers are down. If I were to come in and I were to put my brush up here, I can, but the problem with when I push my bristles down, if my brush has too much product, the product is going to drip into my nail polish application and it's going to remove or dilute my color. So that's why we want it to face upwards. So if it drips to the cuticle area. Okay? You want to keep that in mind. Go ahead and finish that application, that removal. And then put your nail tip to the side. Okay? Alright, we're going to move on to our nail mat. We're going to go with our almond. Now with my almond, you're going to work the same technique, but you're coming at an angle. You want to make sure that it starts in the same spot. So if you put your brush horizontally on your mat, it should start and stop on the same height on the side of the nail. Okay? Keeping that in mind. Go ahead and take your nail polish bottle, swirl at the stick or the stem, wipe both sides of the belly. You do not want a big old bead of polish product on the tip of your brush. You're going to come in at an angle as if you're making the letter X or a V. So you're going to add some of the polish on the side, on one end, swirl and wipe, and then you're going to add the polish on the opposite side, as if you're coming down in a V shape. You can go side to side, or you can go up and down. Either one is fine. Again, 1/4 of a centimeter I'm sorry, half a centimeter or a quarter of a nail, inch, maybe an eighth, depending on how big you're working on the surface. You're going to take your brush. Now, the thing with this, to get it really thin, you might, and some people prefer, to dig into your brush palette and get a thinner brush. So you have a thinner tip to work with. That's fine. Or when you're working with your French brush, instead of pushing the brush down flat and using the belly, you're going to use the tip. So dip your brush into your remover, wipe both sides of the belly. Pick up your brush and use the tip by starting on one end, going back and forth, removing that polish, creating a nice, clean, crisp line. Because you're in such a tight space, you have to wipe your tip of your brush constantly. Okay? So wipe, wipe, wipe. Clean it up, nice and smooth. Now, in the middle, once you're done with one side, you go to the other. In the middle, you do not necessarily want a point because it's not stiletto. When we get to the stiletto, it'll be pointy. This is an almond, so you want it to be round in the middle. And that's more than likely where your smaller brush is going to help you form that shape. Okay? You can move your hand around as needed or necessary to get the angle that you're working for. When you're doing a tight space like this, instead of using the belly of the brush, you're going to use the point or the tip of the brush. Okay, and so just keep that in mind. As you're removing the polish off of the mat, it's going to accumulate on your brush. Make sure to go ahead and wipe that off. When you're going on the edges, you want to make sure that your edges are nice and pointy and even on both sides. Let's say that you mess up. Big deal. Wipe it all off. Start all over again. Okay? Get into that corner, but you're not going to make it pointy. Alright, we're going to move from our mat. We're going to go into our fingertip, our nail tip that we filed. So go ahead and get your almond nail tip. Third to the last one in the order that you placed. Let me erase mine from last class period. Alright, on this one I'm going to do it on the base of the finger here, the white stand. I'm going to clean my brush, make sure my brush is nice and clean. I'm going to swipe side to side. I'm not going to ever jam it down and swirl it. Okay? We're going to take our polish, dark polish preferably. Now on this one, because I'm working at a very tight angle, the fingernail is pointing downward. I'm going to swirl the stem or stick of my brush, wipe both sides of my belly. I barely want any color on my brush. I'm going to create my V shape, starting on the side, working my way down. It could be a V shape or it could be like the top of the X. What you do to one side, you do to the other. Once I do my V going down, I either change my angle or I can change the hand and rotate it so it'd be easier for me to work. So I'm going to go from the tip to the base and angle it down. Now, does your application have to be perfect? No, it could be crazy, and that's okay. The reason why it could be crazy is because you're going to combine, you're going to fix it, you're going to smooth it out, and you're going to get your clean edge in just a second. We're going to pretend we went from pinky to pinky and it's dried. You're going to take your damping dish. Okay? On this one, make the finger point upward. Dip your brush into your damping dish. And you're going to follow the line that you filed. So when you're doing a French application, traditional French application, you're following the line of the shape of the nail. So all you're doing is as if you were filing the inside of that shape. Okay, corner to corner. Remember that the point is not a point on the tip, it's actually the almond shaped tip. Don't forget to wipe your brush, clean your brush every so often. In the middle, if you wanted to choose a smaller brush, you can do a smaller brush. You can turn the angle of your brush and you can actually wipe the brush vertically, taking that remover off. And creating a nice soft angle at the base of the almond at the tip. Okay, and there you have it. Kind of looks like a ballerina shoe. Now, what we didn't do and I forgot to do, turn your fingertip like this. Now, if she's pointing her finger at you, can you see the white of the nail tip? So we forgot to polish it. So if she takes a finger, her nails, and she's, doing the whole I just got married or engaged thing, and she takes a picture, you're going to see that white of the nail tip. So you always want to polish that. We've only done one coat on these, so you would have to come back and do your second coats. On your second coat, you can always catch your mistakes. Okay. So that's your almond. We're going to move on. We're going to skip the mat due to time. And we're going to move on to our stiletto. With our stiletto, we're going to do the same thing, exact same thing as the almond, except for it is a thinner line that comes to a V. Now that one for sure you have your point. So go ahead and grab your stiletto. Give you a breather. Show your neighbor your 2 nails that you've done so far. Hey neighbor, how are your nails looking? How you doing? And when you're ready, you can go ahead and move on to your stiletto. Now with this one, I'm going to hold it with my finger so you can see it can be done either way, whether you have your supplies or not. You're going to swirl your brush or the stem or stick of the polish. You're going to wipe both sides, okay? And then you're going to come in at an angle, at a deeper angle, and apply your application of polish. Now, this one I'm going to do super thin just to show you that you can do a thin line, or you can do a thick line. It just depends on your application. Okay, you just have to make sure that it starts and stops at the same level, side to side. It's hard to see here, but it's a very, very thin line there. You're going to take your brush. Now with this one, I want to make sure my nail or finger is pointing upwards so that my polish remover does not fall into my polish and remove it or dilute it. Using my brush in a standing up motion or angle, I'm going to gently clean the edge of my line and remove the bulk. I'm going to fan it just at the tip so I can get a nice clean edge, and continuously clean my brush so I can make sure that I don't smear my color, I remove the color. And there you have it. There is your stiletto with a clean, thin, crisp line with a very deep point. Okay. So whether you hold it or you put it on your finger or you put it on your stand or on your natural hand finger, Or you practice on your mat. It's the same. The only difference between your mat and either your hand or a nail tip is that the mat is flat, so you're working on a flat surface, so that's going to be a different angle for your brush and your hand to move and rotate. You can't really pick, I mean you can, but can't really pick up the mat and work on it that way. But while you're watching Netflix, it's a good thing to have your mat with your brush, your damping dish, and a napkin, and just practice your different techniques. The more you practice, the faster you'll be whenever you do it at the salon or for a client. You always want to take about 10 minutes, minimum 5, maximum 15 when you're polishing a French polish. The toes are easier because they're smaller, but the fingernails are harder because they're longer and they're more precise. Fingers and toes are crooked. Not all of us are blessed with beautiful, straight, perfect toes with perfect nails. Some of us have little nubbins for our little pinky toenail. You got to work with what the client has. So don't get used to like this perfectly outlined nail tip and this perfectly filed nail tip, because that's not real life. Everybody has different fingernails, as we saw in the nail growth sheet that we did in our packet. Okay. You have about 5 minutes. Try and see if you can finish applying the polish on the rest of your nails. Start tidying up. What I do need you to do is I need you to put your nails, before you leave today, put your nails back on your mounting tape. And I'm going to start a row for second period in front of the pink, the heart over there, so you guys can pick up your polished nails tomorrow, and we will continue. Tomorrow you will need this here, your palette of brushes, and you're going to need your dotting tools, because we're going to start with dots tomorrow, and then we're going to go into stripes, so you'll need your striping tools after that. I would say to bring 2 to 3 different nail polish colors. Your red, yellow, and your blue would be fine. You can add the white or black, it's your choice, but you will need 3 different polish colors for tomorrow. Save your sticky tack. Don't throw that away because you won't get any more. If you have in your damping dish, if you have remover, dump it back into the cups and containers. That way we can recycle and we don't have to throw that down the drain. Okay? You never want to throw polish remover down the drain. You soak it up with your napkin, and the napkin goes in the trash.